Information is knowledge. Greetings to you, viewers of Africa and the world at large. Welcome to this edition of the Pan-African debate. Today we'll be analyzing two pertinent topics of utmost interest. Russia this week formally revealed its intention to withdraw its signature from the Rome Statute that created the International Criminal Court. We are asking this question: what message does Moscow want to relay to the world by leaving the World Court? And of course, we are going to be looking at what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo following a recent development, including the appointment of a new prime minister to lead the unity government. We have two great men in the studio, and who will be going to analyze the topics for today. I'll start by introducing Mr. Michael Dimancho. Welcome to the program, Mr. Michael.
Good afternoon, Clarice. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, Africans. Pan-Africans, of course, we are in one spirit as usual. We hope to have a great discourse on the topics of today.
We also have Mr. Shune. Mr. Shune, welcome to the Pan-African debate.
Good day, Clarice. Good day, Africa. Once more, we have come to brainstorm on the future of Africa. They say better is not good enough. The best of Africa is yet to come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Dimancho and Mr. Shune, for being there. And before we get into the debate proper, we'll first of all listen to what made news in the papers this week with Fru Laurencia Lum as we present a press review roundup.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me to take a look at what made headline news in those papers across the African continent this week. We begin, of course, in the Gambia, where Daily Observer reported that the party, leader and founder of the ruling Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction APRC party, President Yahya Jammeh, has called on Gambians to be mindful of politics, further advising people not to allow politics divide them while on day 3 of his nationwide tour. The Ghanaian Times disclosed that a pre-election survey conducted by the Center for Democratic Development CDD, Ghana has revealed that 73% of expectant voters in the 2016 polls are confident the Electoral Commission is well prepared to oversee the December polls, showing a significant 15% points increase in the Commission's preparedness rating over the July survey figure of 58%. The Node on Liberia stated that the House of Representatives, in an extraordinary session this week, voted overwhelmingly for reduction in presidential tenure from 6 to 4 years, senatorial tenure from 9 to 6 years, and representative tenure from 6 to 4 years, respectively, pending concurrence by the Liberian state, a move that is in line with propositions validated by citizens from across the country during a validation conference held in 2015 in Banga, Bong County. Daily Trust Nigeria, for its part, recounted that many people were feared dead following a clash between the police and members of Nigeria's biggest Shia organization, the Islamic Movement of Nigeria IMN, in Kano earlier this week, but there were conflicting figures as to how many people were killed in the violence, as the Kano State Commissioner of Police, Rabiu Yusuf, claimed a sergeant and 8 Shiites were killed, while the IMN said the number of casualties was more than the figure given by police. Daily Nation Kenya revealed that the race for the chairmanship of the Electoral Commission has narrowed down to 3 men and 2 women, all experienced lawyers, who will now face the interviewing panel on November 28 and 29, which has the delicate task of negotiating the tricky political and ethnic lines and balancing perceptions that would arise in its choice. The New Times Rwanda wrote that the East African Community EAC has agreed to collectively campaign and lobby other African countries in support of Kenya's bid for the African Union Commission chairperson job following a meeting in Nairobi, Kenya last weekend by Ministers for Foreign Affairs from the regional bloc hosted by Dr. Augustine Mahiga, the chairperson of the EAC Council of Ministers. Daily News Tanzania indicates that the European Union has no intention to impose sanctions on Tanzania to press the East African nation into ratifying the widely criticized Economic Partnership Agreement EPA, as Tanzania has categorically rejected the trade deal, requesting for more time after nearly 10 years of discussions between the two blocs. Nyaso Times Malawi reported that Malawian President Peter Mutharika's Total silence on closure of public universities in the country has not placed civil society groups fighting on the affairs of the youth in Malawi, which has called on authorities to resolve the dispute, wrecking the institutions and ensure that they reopen them without delay. Lusaka Times that in Zambia pointed out that the opposition United Party for National Development UPND has cooped most of the local government and mayoral seat in by-elections held on Thursday, seeing the party grab the Mukuba ward seat in Kana constituency with its candidate Gladys Mukoko polling 438, beating Patriotic Front Gilbert Mushota, who received 361. And Daily News Egypt reported that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Thursday issued pardons to 82 detainees, including Islamic researcher Islam el-Bahari, 22 students and 22 workers, among others, and 2 journalists who came from a dozen governorates, according to a copy made public by a committee member, Mohammed Abdel Aziz. This is where we draw the curtains on this edition of our Press Roundup. Thanks for your time and have a wonderful moment in the company of Clarice for the rest of the Pan-African debate.
Thank you immensely, Lawrence Alum, for the press review roundup. Ladies and gentlemen, we take you now to the first topic for today, which will be Russia. Moscow this week shocked the world by revealing its intention to formally leave the Rome Statute after Burundi, South Africa, and the Gambia. Russia shocked the world this week when it officially revealed its intention to withdraw its status from the Rome signature from the Rome Statute that created the ICC. The directive to leave the ICC was signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the ICC had failed to meet the expectations to become a truly independent, authoritative international tribunal. In a statement that they released on Wednesday, it described the World Court as ineffective, adding that during the 14 years of the court's work, it passed only 4 sentences, having spent over $1 billion. Moscow also criticized the court's handling of the country's 5-day conflict with neighboring Georgia in 2008, saying they can hardly trust the International Criminal Court in such a situation. Russia signed the treaty in 2000 but did not ratify it, according to the Russian Legal Information Agency. Mr. Michael, let me start with you. What can you say about this move by Russia to leave the International Criminal Court?
I think, Clarice, that was very, very evident that Putin was not going to take the shit that has come from the ICC. And you know, from his statement, the statement that Putin made, which I quote, the ICC has failed in its duties and expectations in the international community. And of course, when we started having the cry from African nations about the partiality of the ICC, we knew that something more was boiling and that the storm was going to be raised in a teacup. And this is just the time that the storm is being raised in a teacup. One of the world's greatest power and leader, Putin, has spoken, and I'm sure that the world is going to listen. And if Africans, the cause of Africans, was falling on deaf ears, I think that now it is actually going to fall on very, very listening ears. You know, the argument that the ICC is giving that Putin, they stand, is because they were caused to investigate Putin over Syria airstrikes. And that is why Putin has taken the stand and he has decided to come out of the ICC because he doesn't want to be investigated. But although Putin is being accused of the Aleppo situation, you know that the Aleppo situation is actually deteriorating because there are so many airstrikes and people are being displaced, people are dying. But of course, there is an issue about the ICC which we have always been crying. We have said times and times again that the ICC has an eye that sees only across Africa.
Okay, Mr. Michael, come back to you. Let's hear from Mr. Shine. Do you share the same view with Mr. Michael concerning the withdrawal of Russia from the International Criminal Court?
Yeah, Clarice, it goes without any again saying that you can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool the people all the time. I think the time for the national and international community to understand that the ICC is a window dressing to the world has come. Russia has pulled out of the ICC. You know, they signed the treaty, as you earlier mentioned, but they didn't ratify it. And as you did analyze in your presentation, you realize that Russia was involved in a war with Georgia.
Yeah.
And you know that the ICC is very confusive in its presentation of its articles because they don't attack the aggressor. They didn't determine whether if you aggress me and I go into a war with you, now you come and accuse me for crimes against humanity. How about the person who aggressed and I just retaliated in self-defense? And then you know that the Russian constitution also conflicts so much with the constitution of the ICC.
Of the ICC, yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of confrontation at that level. It contradicts the Russian constitution, like the issue whereby it is said that it is mandatory for the accused to be taken to the ICC. But the constitution of Russia does not permit that any Russian who is accused should be taken and judged out of Russia, like in the United States of America. Then secondly, the ICC also states that the right to sue the head of state and the government member. And by the time you have to sue the head of state and the member of a government, you are now trampling on the sovereignty of that nation.
States, yeah.
You're trampling on the sovereignty of that nation, which makes the ICC very controversial. Then thirdly, the non-compliance with the principle that no one should be held accountable for one crime twice, because you realize that might be somebody is accused for crimes against humanity in his country, he's been punished, and then the ICC will still come and indict that same person and will be transferred to the ICC. So yeah. I think that the ICC has been a window dressing, and I think that it's not only Russia that should be moving out. I think it's a clarion call to African nations, a clarion call for the African Union to unite the African leaders and ask us to leave out of this chocolate box.
Seriously, your conclusion just took me to the next question, which is the impact of this decision by Russia to quit the international court. What impact does it have on the African continent? Let me start with you, Mr. Michael.
Of course, it is like a backup. It is like a backup, Clarice, and I think that those African countries like Gambia, South Africa, and Burundi would beat their chest and say, okay, we've started this thing, and we've seen that it is going to create an impact. You know, the other African countries too were afraid. Sometimes like saying that, okay, they don't want to follow the queue, and then come out of the ICC. Now that there is a world power like Russia that is coming out of this power, I think that this is going to encourage them, because for them, they will feel that they had a justifiable reason to declare their exit from the ICC. And I'm sure that this is the time for Afrizit, as we will call it, for African exit from the ICC. I think that it is not now more pressing than ever for African nations who signed the ICC to come out. Because, you know, the ICC was set up to check the excesses of the world leaders as it affects the security life and welfare of the people. But then, we know that in every country there are constitutions, as my comrade said, there are constitutions that are actually checking these excesses. And if in countries where you have constitutions that punish crimes, and then you punish a person, and again the ICC comes in again and they say they want to punish the crime, I don't think that this is fair. So this would be a kind of a precedence for many other African countries to be able to take their stand and get out from this so-called ICC that is causing a lot of havoc more than good.
Mr. Shune, what do you have to say as regards the impact of this pullout by Russia from the international court? What is the impact to the African continent?
The impact is enormous, very, very enormous, and they say we have eyes yet we cannot see, we have ears yet we cannot hear. We remember that Bill Clinton of the United States of America signed this Roman statute. And his predecessor, the person who succeeded him, George Bush, came and revoked it because they foresaw in the ICC an institution that was not just, an institution that was deceitful, an institution that was instrumental only to fabricate injustice, to fabricate chaos around the world. So you realize that an institution that was created 14 years ago, that has only been able to dish out for four sentences and has spent over $1 billion US dollars.
It's enormous.
It is fallacious. While children and pregnant women are suffering all over the world of famine and lack of medication. and that fallacious institution is spending an enormous sum of money, I think the impact is tremendous. I think it's very tremendous over the world. That before you know it, before this year will run out, a dozen nations will be running out of this place, and it will, the offices of that place in The Hague will be closed.
Wow, thank you so very much. One will be tempted to say the ICC has failed as a judicial institution. What can you say?
ICC, and let me quote ICC as the Russian leader puts it, has failed to become a truly independent and respected body for international justice. That means that ICC should be closed.
Definitely.
And let me back up to, I would also say, because there were a series of statements from the Russian president, from the Russian foreign minister,
yeah.
and of course, you realize that these are people who have already been dying about the excesses of the ICC. I would like to call it the excesses of the ICC, because the ICC stretched so much, so far, more than it was expected to do. And this is why the Russian foreign minister said, he said, the ICC has not justified hopes placed upon it and did not become a truly independent and authoritative judicial body. I think that this says so much about what we call the ICC. Because when you look across Africa, the way the ICC has been able to judge, you look at a country like Ivory Coast, where we have Laurent Gbagbo, who is wallowing at the Hague. Of course, you find two people are fighting, you come and uproot one person and then you leave the other person. So you find how you see, injustice. Of course, this is injustice. This is partiality in what was being done. And therefore, we begin to see that the ICC, I mean, just about over 10 years that is in existence, we need to have another tool. If it must exist, we need another tool that should be able to look into its excesses.
Just to reaffirm what my comrade just said, concerning the controversy of the statute of the ICC, you realize that the ICC may exercise its jurisdiction in the following situations. I quote, when the commission of the crime is referred by the state or party. Second, when the United Nations Security Council refers a matter to it. Or thirdly, when the ICC's prosecutor initiates an investigation. And the third one is the one that's been very dominant. It just takes for France to see. It takes for a nation like France to see into Gbagbo something that they don't like, and then they consult the prosecutor, because the prosecutor, who is an individual at his discretion, can decide to investigate a nation, to investigate a head of state, to investigate a member of government. That is scandalous. It is scandalous.
Seriously, Mr. Shina, I'll come back to you. We have a caller on the line. You're welcome to the Pan-African debate.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yes, my name is Alan. I'm calling from Tokyo.
You are most welcome. Share your view.
Yes, yes. ICC is a fake institution. USA, France, England, and so on, they are not the members. They are not the members of ICC. First, why only Africans and all the rest are members of that institution? That's the first question. Now, when Paul Biya was saying no for this ICC, people are calling him a dictator. Right now, no one is giving him a credit. No one. Cameroonians are now, they look at him as no one is saying anything about it. Now, let's talk about this ISIS. Bush supposed to be in ISIS court. Sarkozy is supposed to be there. This one they are calling Bolloré. That this man they are calling Bolloré is supposed to be there. How many people Bolloré kill and Ezeka? Because this what happened in Ezeka. Bolloré said he was going to give 15 billion CFA for the railroad, and he didn't give even one fucking damn. That guy is supposed to be in the ISIS. This guy that call it Bolloré. Bolloré is more dangerous right now in Cameroon than Boko Haram. He is killing, and they are watching him, and he's laughing on the Cameroonian government. And he's laughing on people because Cameroonians are so dumb, and they just to turn against their government. At the same time, Bolloré, he's a liar. He said they're going to give 15 billion for the railroad. Now, the only thing I want to say is this. We are not free. We still the colony, still using the CFA, who is the colony money. You have to shut down all those fucking guys, and then we'll be free. That's the only way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alena. We have another caller on the line, Mr. Paul, all the way from Togo. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, my dear sister. God bless you. God bless all the panelists. I'm very happy to see you again, especially Mr. Michael. Last Saturday, I couldn't see him. I was very anxious, but now I'm very happy. I beg your pardon. I cannot speak English fluently, but I know that you're going to accept me like this. Okay, concerning ICC, please, as for me, all African countries should keep this institution because it is good thing. Please, just take an example. That example was already taken by Mr. Michael. I mean, every court. In every court, one part is stealing or is fooling there and there every day. And where is another part? If there is a war or if there is a quarrel between two persons, then you bring one over there. You leave another part over there who is killing and ill-treating people there. You don't say anything about it. And we don't want Africans to keep this institution. You just, I heard last Saturday somebody saying that if Africans leave this institution, maybe others will be ill-treating Africans.
Definitely.
I'm not sure. They should leave. Please? Please?
Yes, you're on
Am I online?
Yes, sir. Go on. We're listening to you.
Okay. Yes, I was saying that we should. Yes, I was saying that we shouldn't be anxious because we should leave this institution because when Africans say that if we leave there, our leaders should inflict us. I'm not sure because you know those people are not there to protect Africans. They are just there to frighten our leaders who want to take some measures to develop our country. If you catch them, they will frighten with this institution. That's why they are there. They are not just to protect us. Leave them alone. All Africans should keep this institution. We encourage our leaders to be courageous, to leave this institution. If they want to create troubles with them, we are there to back up them. We are there to support them. We will not betray them at all. All Africans are now working. We are now on our feet to support them. They should not be afraid at all. Okay, thank you. God bless you. Carry on your work the way you are doing it. It is very important for us. God bless you.
God bless you and thank you to Mr. Paul all the way from Togo, urging other African countries who are still members to the International Criminal Court to leave immediately. Mr. Shune, before you were talking before the call came in.
Yes, Clarice, I want to enumerate here some accomplices, silent accomplices who are operating in the background, and we are not taking. Some Africans are not taking notice of them. I want to start. The first accomplice is the United Nations. The United Nations. If you realize that the United Nations will prosecute, the United Nations Security Council has the power to refer a situation to the International Court of Justice, even when the country or the person involved is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. That is sheer disregard for national sovereignty. Then second, the IMF and the World Bank. You realize that how were African countries lured into this controversial International Court of Justice statute. They said that African nations could not get a loan from IMF or from the World Bank. To get a loan from the IMF or the World Bank, you could only prove that your country is democratic and you practice good governance.
Seriously.
And practicing good governance was like accepting to ratify the treaty of the ICC. When you ratify the treaty of the ICC, that's when they had to give you a loan. That's how the IMF, which are one of the accomplices, the World Bank and United Nations, are deceiving Africans and putting them in this dungeon of destruction called the ICC.
Okay, seriously, we are moving to the next question, which pundits, critics of the view that Russia is avoiding the ICC's jurisdiction for its alleged abuses, and that's why it is withdrawing its signature from the International Court. How assertive is this statement, Mr. Michael?
That is true, and I would like to quote the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, who is Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein. In reaction to the Russia exit, he said, "We are not convinced their position is based entirely on principle. Quite the opposite. It appears to aim more at protecting their leaders from prosecution. By withdrawing from the Rome Statute, leaders may shield themselves with immunities, but it will be at the cost of depriving their people of the protection of a unique and essential institution." And I'm asking ourselves, what is this unique and essential institution that they are talking about? And we have already done quite a number of intense analysis about the goal of the ICC. And I'm sure that my comrade, Mr. Shuna, actually, in light of the law, or in light of the rules and regulations of joining the ICC, it was enacted. And you know that by asking countries, especially African countries, to be part of the ICC, to sign the Rome Statutes, it was another way of telling the African countries that if you do not rule the way we want, we are going to come for you. And that is what is happening. Look at any African leader who wants to rule for his people. That is when the ICC comes in. And that is what we are decrying. The ICC is such a shit kind of an organ. And we are saying that it is not out to protect the people. The ICC is out to protect the goods and aspirations of the imperialists and the capitalists. It is because when you look at countries where my leaders stand for their people, leaders say the people have to improve their way of life in terms of agriculture, in terms of this, it is when you find that the ICC is coming for those leaders, they come and indict them with wars against humanity and whatsoever thing. Look at our person like Gaddafi in Libya. What happened to Gaddafi? Is there any project that any world leader has taken, like what Gaddafi did in Libya? I mean, we are beginning to ask ourselves a question, and any blind person, any person who doesn't reason will understand that the ICC doesn't mean well for Africa, and it is an organ that Africans need to exit.
Okay, Mr. Shunet, do you think Russia is actually avoiding being tried by the International Court, and that's why it has officially opted to leave the court?
I say no. No. Why? Because, number one, the court is being accused of selectivity. Second, the court is being accused of statutory limitations. Third, the potential to overreach. Okay, fourth, the statute on aggression has not been well defined. Let me substantiate. Rebels come up in Syria. They attack a legitimate government in Syria. The USA and France come up, arm the rebels in Syria. Putin goes in to support Assad with the people of Syria, a legitimate government. And they strike in Aleppo. And ICC turns around and accuses Putin of crimes against humanity. Who should be accused of crime against humanity? The aggressor. Who is the aggressor? USA and France, who are arming rebels in Syria to attack a legitimate government. The ICC is a cacophony and should be closed.
Clarice, just to chip in one more thing. I think that when you look at what happens in Syria in terms of America and Russia, then you understand why the ICC is coming. You realize that in the battle to get Syria, Russia proved tough and proved tough against America. I remember that Putin even warned Barack Obama and told him to be very careful. And you know that because America is seeing itself at the position of solidarity and looking now at Russia at the position of authority, knowing that Russia can finish with America at just the next minute that we are talking. Now, what America has done is that America has gone under the UN Security Council, and the UN Security Council now has gone and has called the attention of the ICC and say, hey, this is your job. You should go. Don't let America be, because America already knows that they are no match for Russia. I think that by Russia leaving the ICC is not because they are afraid. It is just to prove to the world that they are tough. It is even now, because you know that it is even a process to leave the ICC. Because when you are a member of the ICC, you don't just leave. What happens there is a process. It is After 1 year, you write your recommendation, and then they study it, and then they agree or they refuse. But Russia is done, and they are saying that whether you accept or you refuse, we are going to leave the ICC, and we are expecting to see what the ICC will see with Russia after telling the ICC and saying that we are going to leave. We want to see the film that is unfolding, and we'll see what the ICC is doing in Russia. Then we will know what the ICC is up to in Africa.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael Demancher and Mr. Shune, for that great analysis. Right now, we are taking you to the second topic of the day, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo. We'll be analyzing the recent development in the country. An opposition lawmaker of the UDPS party, that is the Union for Democracy and Social Progress, Sami Batibanga, was Thursday, November 17, 2016, appointed a new prime minister by incumbent President Joseph Kabila to lead a unity government that will see the country conduct a peaceful and fair election slated for April 2018. His appointment follows the resignation of the then Prime Minister Augustin Matata Ponyo. This was in accordance with the October 18 national dialogue held by a faction of the opposition led by Vital Kaheme and the Democratic Republic of Congo's government. Before we get into the analysis, I will first of all listen to this report written by Regina Mbamenyangong. Let's listen.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's president on Thursday named an opposition lawmaker as prime minister under a controversial power-sharing deal that effectively extends President Joseph Kabila's term in office. This follows the resignation of Congo's prime minister on Monday as part of an agreement that extends Kabila's tenure and should pave the way for a new cabinet with posts for some of these opposition figures who agreed to the election delay. The main opposition bloc, however, has rejected it. Meanwhile, Congolese President Joseph Kabila earlier this week, Tuesday, warned against foreign interference in the country's political crisis in an address to parliament in which he also promised elections without saying when they would be held. President Kabila appeared to be reacting to remarks by some UN Security Council diplomats who visited Congo at the weekend to push for a peaceful transition of power. They were hoping to avert widespread violence when the president's mandate runs out on December 19th. Their visit aimed to break the deadlock over elections, which have been repeatedly delayed and are now not expected until 2018. Some officials raised concerns when Mr. Kabila declined to answer directly questions about whether he would try to change the constitution so he could run again. More than 50 people were killed when security forces clashed with protesters calling for the president to step down in September. Many fear that the political impasse will lead to more chaos and bloodshed in the vast Central African nation, where millions died in regional conflicts between 1998 and 2003. Mr. Kabila blamed the violence squarely on his opponents. Mr. Kabila's critics say his aim is to change the constitution, which limits him to 2 terms in office in order to secure a third. In his speech, he reiterated that he told Security Council officials over the weekend that the constitution, which currently bars him from running again, will be respected. In talks with them, though, he raised the possibility of the Congolese people changing the constitution if they so desire, apparently leaving the door open for a referendum to lift terms limits, as several other African leaders have done.
Thank you, Regina Ngwamenyangong, for that wonderful report. Will take us to the first question about President Joseph Kabila's philosophy, choosing an opposition member of parliament to lead a unity government that will see the country hold a peaceful election in 2018. Mr. Michael Demancher.
Yes, I think that this is a good move, and this proves that Kabila doesn't have an even intention, clarity. I think that the world should see clearly and see clearly in the heart and mind of this gentleman. I tell you, this is a guy who means well for his people. The issue is that, let us begin to understand some of these things. When you hear the Europeans, when you hear our imperialists, when you hear our colonialists complain about a leader, know that that leader is good for the people. And this is a fire cry I want to send out to all Africans. When you hear the UN, when you hear the so-called international community say that this leader is a bad person, Africans, let us agree today that that leader is a good person and we should support him. I think that by Kabila choosing an opposition member of government, a leader of the UDPS, to form a unity government, to form a government of reconciliation, I think that this is a very, very good move, and we want to laud him for this initiative. First of all, you know, there is the people are saying the elections are supposed to hold in December. I mean, we should look in December. I mean, we should be able to analyze and see why Kabila doesn't want these elections to hold. Kabila, first of all, is trying to look at the lives of the people that is put at risk if these elections are held. You know, there's the issue about the voters' list that needs a lot of updating, and he has been talking about these things. You people are asking elections to be hosted in November or in December. I mean, we need to upgrade the voters' list, and this costs us a lot of money. Our country is in total disarray. Our country is in total, separation, and people are dying.
Divided,
and you people want me to spend a whole lot of this money in upgrading the voters list. Come on, people, Congolese, understand we. And this is a cry that Kabila has been given. Now, he has given them a promise and said, he has not told them that he is going to stand again for election. This is one thing we should understand about the whole issue. Kabila has not uttered in any statement that he's going to stand again for the next election. People are trying to preempt. People are trying to deduce. People are trying to foresee and forecast the fact that he is going to stand in for election. He has not said that he is going to stand in for election. He has given the reason why he is postponing the election. And he is saying that election will hold. An election will hold in April 2017. I don't think that April is far away, that we cannot wait. I think people say this is flagrant violation of a constitution. Yes, it is flagrant violation of constitution if lives must be saved. If lives must be saved, then let the constitution be violated. And that is what I'm saying.
For a good cause.
For a good cause, class, I think this is the analysis.
Mr. Shune, choosing an opposition member of parliament to lead the government, what do you have to say? Sami Badibanga, the new prime minister in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
That is a show of grandeur in the political dispensation of Kabila. You realize that he has proven to the African people and the international community that Africa is ripe. And then it's my clarion call to the opposition in the Congo that together we stand and divided we fall. You see, he has chosen a scribe from the party of Etienne Tshisekedi. Etienne Tshisekedi, who calls himself president-elect and who boycotted
the national dialogue.
The national dialogue.
Yeah.
And I begin to wonder what type of peace and unity he wants to preach. When they call people on the table to sit and discuss on the future of the nation, he who calls himself president-elect will refuse to come and sit and discuss with them. And a scribe from his party has been chosen to lead the nation. You know, and I want to really appreciate Mr. Kabila for this show of grandeur and independence. And you see, that's why he was warning the international community not to interfere in the affairs of the
Congo,
state.
yeah.
Because RD Congo is a sovereign state, and the people of RD Congo have the right to sit and decide on the future of their nation, rather than the international community come in all the time, because UN security inspectors were in Congo. And what have they come to do? We know they have come to dish out money to sell out, money to sell out, so that they should pay youths to go on the streets and start marching, so that Kabila should be ousted, and they should bring in a proper leader in our rich mineral nation, and they'll be able to have access to the rich mineral resources of RD Congo that Kabila has stopped them, has not permitted them to have access to. You realize that in the reign of Mobutu, Leopold came in and did whatever they wanted to do, King Leopold of Belgium. And I think that if the ICC thinks that they are a just court, they should go to Belgium and ask them to pay back all what they took unjustly, from the Congo.
Definitely.
They should not only be arresting African leaders and taken to ICC to be judged. They should go to Congo because the King Leopold II acted on behalf of the state. He acted on behalf of the Belgian government, and we can hold the Belgian people of today responsible for crimes that were committed by the leaders of yesterday. So we think that as the ICC is struggling to impose its authority over the African nation, they should also go to Europe and try to bring what was taken from Africa unjustly.
Okay. What do you expect from this new Prime Minister, Sami Badibanga? Who is Sami Badibanga in the first place?
Sami Badibanga has been ascribed in the party of Etienne Tshisekedi. I know Etienne Tshisekedi is a ferocious opposition leader in RD Congo, who is known by almost everybody. And then if somebody like him has been chosen from the opposition after the national dialogue, I think that it is a true, it's a show of good governance from Kabila. It's a show of democracy from Kabila. And I think that Congolese people should come together and work with him and come out with an agenda for the future. If it's the fact that they want to come out with a referendum and decide whether he is going to stand in again or not, it is a decision of the country.
People, yeah.
Why are they not opposing the referendum that was held in Cote d'Ivoire? Because Cote d'Ivoire is a stooge to the French government, and they are manipulating to keep their stooge, their stooge Ouattara, to remain in power. And the international community is not discussing at that level because they know that Ouattara is their stooge. But because they know that Kabila is not a stooge, they are standing against a referendum. You see the controversy of this new colonialists and United Nations Security Council. I am calling on the Congolese people to sit and work with this new government that has been put in place by Laurent Kabila, Joseph Kabila, I beg your pardon. And he has chosen a PM from the opposition, the people who have been fighting him, that he should come and work together for the interest of the African people, work together for the interest of the Congolese people, and they should not receive any influence or manipulation from the West.
Outside, yeah. Okay, you know, there's another prominent opposition leader in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is Vital Kamerhe. He also participated in the national dialogue. There were suspects that he may be the one to be chosen to lead the unity government. Now that Sami Badibanga has been chosen, don't you think it can create some feud among the two opposition leaders, or even with the government of Joseph Kabila?
No, for my humble opinion, it goes without any gainsaying, and I say it's a fundamental fact that we know that Sami Badibanga is a nationalist, and we understand very well that Kamerhe has some links with the Belgian government, and Kamerhe will be coming in as a traitor. But Kamerhe can negotiate and work with this government, but giving the leadership of this government to Kamerhe, we would like giving back the leadership of government to the Belgian colonists.
Mr. Michael Dimaggio, do you have something to say concerning Vital Kamerhe and Sami Badibanga?
Yeah, I think that it is a simple analysis. Sami has worked with Etienne. Those who follow the politics of the DRC will know who Etienne is. I want to first of all talk about Etienne. Etienne is like an Iroko of the opposition. This is a strong man of the opposition. When we want to talk about opposition in the DRC, we are talking about Etienne Tshisekedi. Yeah. So, I mean, somebody who has worked with Etienne as a scribe, I mean, should actually know the ideals and the intentions and the policy formulation of the opposition in the DRC.
Definitely.
You will not go and pick somebody, an unripe cocoyam to put as the prime minister who doesn't know anything. I think that Sami is a right person because he knows what the opposition want in the DRC. Kabila is very, very strategic. He knows that when he brings Sami in, Sami is going to tell him exactly their strategy that they were taking, with the opposition. And that is just the fact. And of course, I think that when he comes in, he will have a better contribution to make. And let me state here that what Kabila is doing is putting the interests of the state first before the interests of the individual. He didn't want to put the interest. If he wanted to put the interests of the individual, he would have put Kamerhe. Because he is, first of all, he is more
pro-Kabila.
yes, he's pro-Kabila more
Yeah.
than even the other Sami. So I think that he is putting the interest of the state first and the only right person to put at this particular time, who can be able to bring in meaningful contribution, meaningful criticism too. You should know. Bringing in a prime minister too means that the prime minister too is going to be an eye opener, because you only also criticize what the president is doing and tell the president, hey, look at
Where you are
this is
heading.
this is where you are heading to. You are going this because this is what we were criticizing. If you go here, you are going to fall. So Kabila is very, very strategic, and I think that there was no better person to put at this time than Sami.
Seriously, in your opinion, Mr. Michael, who do you think is going to make up this new government? Is Sami going to appoint some members from the opposition party or to lead the unity government? In
As
your
I said,
opinion?
as I said, the interests of the country first. And as a political analyst, I would say that Sami should form a government of unity, because this is what they are fighting to have. And let me come back to an issue before answering to your question very clearly. From my analysis, you will understand that the DRC has to be much more careful now. You know that there is a Moscou force in the DRC.
Seriously,
The
yeah,
force from,
definitely.
of the UN force. And it has been in the DRC for over 16 years with no results. That is what we are decrying. Because since they came, there has been increased rebel groups in the east. Each day, rebel groups are increasing. And we're asking ourselves, what is the
Why?
use of the UN force in the MONUSCO force in the DRC?
In the DRC.
Secondly, you have that they have not succeeded to disarm the militias. We are asking ourselves, what is the use of the UN force in the DRC? Those are million questions that we are asking. So now, let me come to this analysis of what the UN is trying to do in the DRC, and then our viewers will understand exactly why there is a bone of contention here. Now there is this charter of the UN. There is in this charter we have chapter 6 and chapter 7. Chapter 6 talks about a sovereign nation, and chapter 7 talks about a nation that is free. I mean, when we talk about a nation that is free, we mean a nation that is coming out from war and has no leader. Because we know that in some countries we fight a war and at the end we have no leader, and they have to sit to decide who is the leader. Chapter 6 talks about a sovereign nation. Means that in a sovereign nation there is a leader. And what is happening in the DRC gives us the implication that there's no leader in the DRC. The way that the MONUSCO, the UN representative, I want to call his name, he is called Martin Kobler. He's a German. The way that this man is going with this issue in the DRC makes us understand, think that there is no leader in the DRC. This man is exercising what they call in French, la diplomatie du carrefour. What is this diplomatie du carrefour? It is what we call the junction diplomacy. It is a kind of diplomacy whereby in a country you have a leader, but when an important issue is to be discussed, you do not discuss with the leader. You go to the street or you go to the carrefour and discuss with other état major, and what happens is that the president only hears about it from other people. This is the kind of diplomacy that this one is using, and that is why this conflict is continuously being fueled in the DRC, and we're asking them to be this. I mean, unlike a kind of the chapter 6 gives prescription for a country that is free, whereby after a war there is no leader, the UN comes in and decides on what it's supposed to do. The DRC is not like that. So we are saying that at this particular time, the DRC, the opposition in the DRC, they have all the reason, they have all the interest to come together, to see the other external enemy that is coming to destabilize them. They should not be fooled by the few dollars or the few euros that they are coming to give them. They have interest now more than ever to keep their country together than to separate it.
Okay, Mr. Michael, I'll come back to you. Have a call online. Mr. Alain from Tokyo. Sir, you are welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks a lot once more. Talking about Congo, since Belgium took Congo hostage more than 300 years, that country never know what means peace. The real peace and the real democracy is not in Congo because of their mineral resources. The same people who are telling Alassane Draman in Africa to change the constitution is the same people who are telling now Kabila not change the constitution. We don't even understand what they stand. Why? Because what they are looking for is their mineral resources. They want to divide Congo. And no one is thinking about the Congolese themselves. Kabila is a right person. For the first time, I agree with the guy who was talking. It's the first time I agree with him. The good leader for Africa is a bad leader for Western countries. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Alain, all the way from Tokyo. Mr. Michael.
Yes, of course, Mr. Alain. I'm happy that at least you agree with me for the first time, and I'm sure that if you revisit all my last analysis, you will certainly find one or two things about it that you agree with me, and it is true. And we are saying that the GRC, the opposition in the GRC, they have the interest now more than ever to come together and be able to form an alliance and fight against these imperialists. Mr. Alain mentioned the issue of the Belgians. And we know that immediately the Belgians left the Congo, Congo started war. Why? Because they didn't prepare them for independence. That is the main cause that started all these skirmishes, all these conflicts in the DRC Congo, because the political activists were not prepared for independence. The Congo left the DRC as Zaire as if they were leaving a country that were being chased by bees. And they had the reason why they were leaving them so.
All right, another caller online. This is a lady, this time around, Leticia, all the way from New York. Welcome, madam, to the program.
Oh, good morning. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I thank you all of the panelists who really are doing a very well job done. So what I want to say, basically, what is happening in Congo is a result of the ICC. The ICC is the biggest international terrorist organization that the world has ever seen. Seriously, we have to call it by its name. So all the African leaders should step outside. I understand that, you know, the Europeans have put in place the leaders just to destroy and to continue to steal our own resource, okay? And this is not acceptable. They call it our terrorists, but this is one of them, and they should call it by its name. We Africans, we should be more nationalists. We are not nationalists. That's the problem. We don't love our continent enough to fight them. I don't care what they have. Even if they have weapons, they have atomic bomb, we can beat them. I'm telling you, in the past, our ancestor was able, okay, to fight them. Our ancestor didn't have any weapon. We can fight them. All I'm saying is that it's time for African people to wake up, to understand that our life, our new generation are, you know, at the mercy of these terrorist people. We need to fight because the time has come. And as far as the leaders, some of the leaders in African countries, they need to step aside, or the people should wake up and remove them. I'm saying they need to remove them. Enough is enough. We have competent people, okay, from our own country who can lead our countries, okay? These leaders right now, they are all followers. They are not leaders. They are incompetent. They are not capable to lead their own citizens. So please continue to spread the good news. Continue to inform our own citizens, our African people. I thank you and bless. God bless Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Madam. Mr. Shane, taking you to this question, how did opposition leader Etienne Tshisekedi react to the appointment of Sami Badibanga as the new Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo?
You realize that in the beginning, they asked him not to attend the national dialogue.
Yeah.
But he went forward on the parliament and formed a parliamentary group and attended the national dialogue. They said, you cannot fight from without. The only way you can fight is from within. So he took the good decision to join. And it goes without any again saying that they would not be happy to have heard that one of their scribes that they refused stops him from attending the national dialogue had been appointed. And so it is very clear that they are not very contented about it. And then I think that the first agenda on Sami Badibanga's agenda, as I earlier made mention, is the fact that I propose that he should write to the UN to remove MINUSCA forces in Congo. Why? Why? Because MINUSCA forces, it is purported and insinuated that they are instead creating and training rebel movements in Congo to destabilize the government, because they use the divide and rule. When they destabilize the government, they take advantage. It has also been purported that MINUSCA forces are doing illegal mining in RD Congo. Nothing has been done to be investigated upon this strong allegation. Then as MINUSCA forces should be living, they should not allow United Nations Security Council to come there again for any meeting and stay there. Because we understand that the Security Council conspires with some governments to create terrorist organizations like ISIS, so that war should be persistent, so and then arms will be sold, and then money will be made at the expense of innocent citizens' lives.
Thank you.
And then I want to conclude by saying that I declare today the ICC, the International Court of Justice, a terrorist organization. And I want to give my reasons why I consider them to be a terrorist organization. The ICC stood and saw how the Libyan guide was killed, assassinated, and brutally murdered. And the ICC still stands today to see how the Libyan youths are not benefiting from free education.
Seriously.
How the Libyan youths are not benefiting from free health care. How the Libyan youths are suffering. The ICC stands today to see Africa losing in terms of development and freedom from the projects that were being initiated by the Libyan guide Gaddafi. The African Union, the United States of African project, has been destroyed. The RASCOM, the RASCOM satellite that was to be launched in Africa, Africa used to pay $500 million US every year for telecommunication and communication accesses. We are paying the money. Gaddafi invested 400 million so that we should stop paying this money for a lifetime. The project was destroyed by Sarkozy and his team. The African Monetary Fund that had to come in so that Africa should not be going again to borrow money from the IMF at very extravagant interest rates. That body was destroyed. It wasn't formed. The African Central Bank that was supposed to form with headquarters to be in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, was not formed. The unique African currency was not formed. And then the ICC has not indicted even one person. It means that the ICC is an accomplice to this crime against humanity in Africa, and the ICC is a terrorist organization, and the world should watch and see.
Okay, seriously, Etienne Tshisekedi, while reacting to President Joseph Kabila's statement, while he addressed the parliament on Tuesday, he said Kabila's appointment of Sami Badibanga was provocative, and that will not stop the opposition from calling on President Kabila to step down next December when it comes to an end. Do you think Etienne Tshisekedi is bent on seeing Kabila step down?
If only he will be alive in the next 2 or 3 years. Because Etienne Tshisekedi, I think that is an old man, and age comes, we say it comes with wisdom. And I think that if we are talking about the politics of the GRC, I think that the people like Etienne should be at the background advising the other people to come up and do the politics. For him to stand again at the forefront and as a leader of a political party, I don't know what he hopes he's going to give the people of the GRC at this age. That is one question now we may be asking. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. And I think that even if he doesn't back Kabila, it is who cares? Who cares? I know that I think that the people of the GRC will only be too foolish to vote for a person like Etienne Tshisekedi as the next president of the GRC. Because, I mean, a person at that age, as I said, is supposed to be there, I mean, to play an advisory role and not to come in again to be able to destabilize. He should, through his weight behind Sami. I mean, Sami has taken a bold step, a step of reconciliation, because all these, for those who have good intentions, all these things boils about what? It boils about dialogue. It boils about reconciliation. It boils about the well-being of the people. It boils about peace. It boils about good health. It boils about education. It boils about development. And if there is a common platform where this can be discussed and all these things are discussed and they yield fruit, they are incarnated, I think that this is what we want. I mean, we have often said about the issue of democracy. People cry about democracy. What we want is that the people should be well. If you are there, you can be there for 100 years. If the people are fine, where is the problem? What is the need of changing people from one person to the other? And we have been crying that the DRC is a kind of a country whereby you have dictatorship, totalitarian government, whatsoever. But we have had Kabila, who is, actually an elected president. The only elected, the first elected president of DRC. I think that this is an improvement we need to applaud. We need to clap for it. And that for we to go this far, to come this far, and then we reach at this peak for another person to come and destabilize us and make us go about again back in the dark ages. I will say no to Etienne Tshisekedi.
One last word before we conclude this debate program, Mr. Shune.
I have this message for Etienne Tshisekedi, that an elder, this African adage that goes that an elder cannot sit in the house and see its she-goat suffer the pain of parturition tied to its teeter. As my comrade earlier said, Tshisekedi should be coming in now to give advice and not inciting Congolese people to divide themselves again. I just want to strongly believe that during his period of exile in Europe, he has not been one of those who have been brainwashed to come and destabilize Africa. I hope he is not an agent like Ouattara is in Cote d'Ivoire. He is not an agent that will be put in the Congo to destabilize Congo for the interests of the European people. We say the African people are one, and then the African people should stay united. That united we stand and divided we fall. That Tshisekedi should join the government of Sami and work with him. He says Sami is a scribe that has been trained by him, and he knows the values that he has inculcated in Sami, and then he should work with Sami so that the Congolese people will write his name in the history of this nation for years to come.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Shune and Mr. Michael Dimancho. While hoping that the people of Congo will rally behind the new Prime Minister Sami Badibanga to form a new government that will lead them to a peaceful election and that will see peace return to the country, where people will no longer die, where there will be peace, unity, and the country will evolve and develop well, and job employment will be created, opportunities will be created, and the smile will return to the faces of the citizens of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ladies and gentlemen, we beg to leave here. That's where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the Pan-African Debate. Don't go away. Keep watching Africa Media for more news.